The rain was relentless, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. Alistair Humphrey, a 43-year-old architect in Manchester, always prided myself on my meticulous designs, my steady hand, and my unwavering commitment to my work, and especially to my wife, Bronte. We'd been married for 15 years, a seemingly perfect union built on shared dreams and mutual respect. Or so I thought. The first crack appeared subtly, almost invisibly. Bronte, a vibrant and outgoing marketing executive, started working late more frequently. A big campaign, she'd explain, her eyes tired but alight with a passion I once attributed solely to her career. Ever the supportive husband, would have dinner waiting, the house quiet, a haven for her return. But she'd arrive later and later, the spark in her eyes dimming, her responses to my inquiries becoming shorter, almost dismissive. I chalked it up to work stress, something I understood intimately. The architectural world was demanding, deadlines unforgiving. I knew what it was like to be consumed by a project, to lose oneself in the intricate details of a design. So I gave her space, offered massages, and tried to alleviate her burdens in any way I could. I was, after all, her rock, her confidant, her biggest supporter. Then came the phone calls. Whispered conversations in the hallway, hushed tones that ceased abruptly when I entered the room. Bronte would claim it was her mother or a colleague, but something felt off. A cold knot of anxiety began to tighten in my stomach, a feeling I hadn't experienced since my university days, facing a particularly brutal critique of my thesis project. I tried to ignore it, to dismiss it as paranoia fueled by exhaustion. But the unease persisted, a persistent hum beneath the surface of our carefully constructed life. I started paying closer attention, noticing the small details I'd previously overlooked. The way she flinched when I touched her, the way she avoided my gaze, the subtle scent of a cologne I didn't recognize clinging to her clothes. The final blow came unexpectedly, delivered by an oblivious acquaintance at a charity gala. "Bronte looks radiant," she gushed. "That new project with Gareth seems to be doing wonders for her." Gareth. The name echoed in my head, a discordant note in the symphony of our life. Gareth? Who was Gareth? Later that night, after Bronte had drifted off to sleep, I did something I never thought I was capable of. I checked her phone. The guilt gnawed at me, a bitter taste in my mouth. I was violating her privacy, betraying the trust that was the bedrock of our relationship. But the gnawing anxiety was stronger, the need for answers overwhelming. The passcode was her birthday, a detail I knew by heart. I scrolled through her messages, my heart pounding in my chest. Texts were innocuous at first, work-related discussions, logistical arrangements. But then I saw them, the late-night exchanges, the flirtatious banter, the longing, the raw, undeniable evidence of an affair. My world imploded. The carefully constructed reality I had inhabited for 15 years shattered into a million pieces. Bronte, my Bronte, the woman I loved, the woman I had built my life with, was cheating on me. With Gareth. A wave of nausea washed over me, followed by a searing, white-hot rage. I wanted to scream, to break things, to lash out at the woman who had so casually destroyed everything we had. But I didn't. I sat there numb, staring at the screen, the incriminating messages blurring through my tears. The rain outside intensified, drumming against the windows like a relentless barrage. I felt like I was drowning, suffocating in a sea of betrayal and despair. The next morning I confronted her. She denied it at first, her eyes wide with feigned innocence. "Alistair, you're being ridiculous," she scoffed. "Gareth is just a colleague. We're working on a project together. There's nothing going on." I had the evidence, the irrefutable proof of her infidelity. I showed her the messages, the words glowing accusingly on the screen. Her face crumpled, the mask of innocence slipping away to reveal the guilt and shame beneath. "It just happened," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "I didn't mean for it to. I don't know. I was feeling neglected, Alistair. You were always so focused on your work. I needed attention." Words were like salt in an open wound. Neglected. I had dedicated my life to providing for her, to making her happy. I had sacrificed my own ambitions, my own desires, to ensure her comfort and well-being. And this was how she repaid me, with lies, deceit, and betrayal. "So, you decided to seek attention from another man?" I asked, my voice cold and hollow. You decided to throw away 15 years of marriage for a cheap thrill. She started to cry, pleading for forgiveness, begging me to understand. But I couldn't. The trust was gone, shattered beyond repair. The woman I thought I knew, the woman I loved, was a stranger to me now. I want a divorce, I said, the words heavy with finality. I want you out of my life. Following months were a blur of legal proceedings, emotional turmoil, and sleepless nights. I moved out of our house, the house we had built together, the house that held so many memories, both good and bad. I found a small apartment in the city center, a sterile, impersonal space that reflected the emptiness inside me. I threw myself into my work, seeking solace in the familiar comfort of architectural design. I spent hours at my drafting table, losing myself in the intricate details of blueprints and elevations. It was a temporary escape, a way to numb the pain, but it wasn't a solution. The pain was always there, a constant ache in my chest. The memories of Bronte, of our life together, haunted me. I replayed our relationship in my mind, searching for clues, for signs I had missed, for warnings I had ignored. I confided in my friend, Cormac, a pragmatic and level-headed accountant who had always been a voice of reason in my life. He listened patiently as I poured out my heart, offering words of support and encouragement. "You'll get through this, Alistair," he said. "You're a strong man. You deserve better than that." His words were comforting, but they didn't erase the pain. I knew I would survive, but I wasn't sure I would ever truly heal. One evening, several months after the divorce was finalized, Cormac invited me to a local pub for a pint. I hesitated at first, reluctant to face the world, but he insisted. "You need to get out of that apartment, Alistair," he said. "You're starting to look like a hermit." I reluctantly agreed, and we headed to the pub. It was a lively place, filled with the sounds of laughter and conversation. I felt out of place, a solitary figure in a sea of merriment. As we sat at the bar, Cormac pointed to a woman across the room. "See that woman over there," he said. "The one with the red hair. That's Isolde. She works at my office. She's been through a similar situation to you." I glanced at the woman. She was attractive, with a warm smile and intelligent eyes. I hesitated, unsure if I was ready to engage with anyone new. "Go talk to her, Alistair," Cormac urged. "You have nothing to lose." Taking a deep breath, I walked over to Isolde and introduced myself. We started talking, and I was surprised at how easy it was to connect with her. She was understanding, empathetic, and genuinely interested in my story. We talked for hours that night, sharing our experiences of heartbreak and betrayal. Isolde had been married for 10 years when she discovered her husband was having an affair with his secretary. She had gone through the same pain, the same anger, the same sense of loss that I was experiencing. As the evening drew to a close, I felt a glimmer of hope, a sense that maybe, just maybe, I could move on from the pain of the past. Isolde had shown me that it was possible to find happiness again, even after the devastation of betrayal. We started seeing each other regularly, going for walks in the park, attending concerts, and sharing meals. Isolde was a breath of fresh air, a vibrant and positive presence in my life. She helped me to rediscover the joy in simple things, to appreciate the beauty of the world around me. One day, as we were strolling through a botanical garden, Isolde stopped and turned to me, her eyes sparkling with affection. "Alistair," she said, "I've really enjoyed getting to know you. You're a kind, intelligent, and compassionate man. I think I'm falling in love with you." My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't expected this, but I realized that I felt the same way about her. "Isolde," I said, "I'm falling in love with you too." We embraced, our lips meeting in a tender kiss. It was a moment of pure happiness, a sign that I was finally ready to move on from the pain of the past and embrace the possibilities of the future. But the past had a way of resurfacing, even when you least expected it. A few weeks later, I received a phone call from an unfamiliar number. I hesitated before answering, a sense of foreboding washing over me. "Hello, Alistair," a voice said on the other end. "It's Bronte." My heart sank. I hadn't spoken to her since the divorce was finalized. "What do you want, Bronte?" I asked, my voice cold. "Need your help, Alistair," she said, her voice trembling. "Gareth left me. He ran off with another woman. I have nowhere to go. I'm broke, Alistair. I've lost everything." A wave of conflicting emotions washed over me, anger, resentment, and a flicker of pity. "I'm sorry to hear that, Bronte," I said, "but I can't help you. You made your choices. You have to live with the consequences." "Please, Alistair," she begged. "I have no one else to turn to. I know I hurt you, but I'm desperate." I hesitated, torn between my desire for revenge and my innate sense of compassion. "I'll give you one night," I said finally. "You can stay at my apartment tonight, but that's it. Tomorrow you're on your own." Next morning, Bronte was gone. She had left a note on the kitchen table, thanking me for my kindness and apologizing for her actions. I never saw her again, but I heard through mutual acquaintances that she had moved to another city and was working as a waitress. She had lost everything: her career, her friends, her reputation. She had paid the price for her betrayal. As for me, I continued to build my life with Isolde. We got married a year later in a small ceremony surrounded by our closest friends and family. We bought a house in the countryside, a cozy cottage with a beautiful garden. We were happy, truly happy. I had learned a valuable lesson from my experience with Bronte, that trust is a precious gift, and once it is broken, it can never be fully restored. I had also learned that forgiveness is possible, even in the face of the deepest betrayal. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means accepting the past and moving on, stronger and wiser. I had found love again, a love that was based on honesty, respect, and mutual understanding. I was grateful for the second chance, for the opportunity to build a new life, a better life, with the woman I truly loved. Years later, I was sitting in my garden, sipping a cup of tea, when I received a letter. It was from Bronte. In the letter, she apologized again for her actions, expressing her remorse and regret. She admitted that she had made a terrible mistake and that she had never stopped thinking about me. She wrote that she was finally at peace with her past and that she wished me all the best in the future. I read the letter with a sense of closure. I had forgiven Bronte, not for her sake, but for my own. I had released the anger and resentment that had consumed me for so long. I was finally free. I folded the letter and placed it in a box with other mementos from my past. It was a reminder of the pain I had endured, but also of the strength I had found within myself to overcome it. I looked at Isolde, who was tending to her flowers in the garden. Her face was radiant with happiness. I smiled, knowing that I had found my true love, my soulmate. And I knew that no matter what challenges life might throw our way, we would face them together with honesty, respect, and unwavering love. Life had given me a second chance, and I was determined to make the most of it. I, Alistair Humphrey, had survived the storm, and I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more grateful than ever before.